Hey folks, Jake Baldino here, E3 2019. As usual, we always talk about like the news, all the new games announced, but we're gonna try something different with this video and talk about the best games we actually played, the ones we got our hands on. So keep in mind, not everything here is playable. Some stuff they just show it to you, like Avengers. We didn't get our hands on a controller, but we do have 5 games we played ourselves that we really like. The first one at number 5 is Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is a good one. We've had our hands on it before at events and stuff, but it's just a really damn good time. It's still Borderlands, but it feels a little bit fresher, it moves a little faster, controls a little better, it just feels more modern FPS, you know? Weapon types are really good. The few that we did get to experience, there is a good variety between them. It's actually got some really kick-ass shotgun feel, which is something I think is really important to a shooter, am I right? Like if there's no shotgun, dude, it's like garbage. Essentially, it's really like the simplest game on our list. If you're into Borderlands, it's what you like, it's what you come to Borderlands for, but it does seem better. The new character types do seem interesting. The ults are pretty cool, a little creative and a little outside the box. And really, it's just a damn good time. It's just that one of those social shooters, a shooter you want to play with a friend. You've probably done it before with Borderlands 2, stuff like that. You're likely going to be doing it again with this. Next up at number 4 is The Outer Worlds, a game that has been my most anticipated for a while, and I was fortunate enough to get my hands on it at a behind-closed thing at a pre-E3 event, and I can't say too much actually. A lot of it's still embargoed, but it's cool. Essentially, if you are looking for a Fallout New Vegas spiritual successor, it's exactly what it is. You can tell from the trailer and you can tell from the E3 presentation they give here. It's focused on dialogue trees and deception and little stats. I love how creatively they do stuff here where you can, the more you play, develop different attributes essentially. So the scenario we got to see was sneaking into a robot factory and eventually your disguise is up, you fight some robots, then you get hit with something called robophobia. You develop robophobia, and if you want to take that, you essentially take a hit to your dexterity and damage when you're fighting robots because you're afraid of them. But on the flip side, you get a new perk point. Just creative little ways like that, just some RPG as hell stuff I really like. We also got to see a lot of action with the disguise system. If you're good enough on charisma and certain technologies, you can develop a hologram disguise, and then there's a whole disguise system in the game where you have 3 strikes and how you can talk your way out of situations, and I love that. And what I've seen so far and what I've gotten to touch for the Outer Worlds has really just been side quests, and all the side quests have been really compelling. Graphically, it's a little whack. It looks old and busted, honestly, but like the charm and the game design is really there. I'm still curious to see how like fulfilling the shooting and melee will be. I like the weapon customization, the stuff you can do if you have science attributes. You can make badass science guns, but how that's really going to feel moment to moment, I still need to play more to see. Again, I gotta reiterate though, like if you're down with like those RPGs, if you like Obsidian, and if you were obsessed with New Vegas, I think this is gonna be the game for you. I'm just saying, it's early, but that's what I'm calling. And next up at number 3 is Final Fantasy VII, the remake. It's actually very good. I have been so skeptical of this the whole time. I know a lot of you guys out there have, like, where did it go, right? It was gone for like a long time, development hell. I'm still not into the fact that they're dividing it up episodically. The first game essentially is going to only be the Midgar chunk, but if you've played Final Fantasy VII, you know there's so much more to it. But what I got to do was just a couple of little bits of exploration and some battles. Essentially the early area of the game. You know, when you're essentially going and infiltrating the factory to blow it up with Barrett, you fight that big red robot, and that's where the game felt a lot like an RPG. Now, it's not turn-based. I'm jammed up about that. I would have so loved it if they just went turn-based again. But they have more of an active battle system similar to Final Fantasy 15. Now, whether you liked Final Fantasy 15 or hated Final Fantasy 15, I think this one does a way better job of retaining the RPG feel. The fact that the pausing and like assessing the battle is so integral to the combat, even more so than 15, I think makes it work really well. The ATB gauge and how that works with your abilities I find really satisfying. Using items, managing your position and blocking. It seems like a lot at times, but I found it to be really satisfying and way more than I expected, and I did feel like I was still playing a Final Fantasy RPG, despite the fact that as Cloud, I was able to dodge and hit and do whatever I wanted. Despite having the freedom, I do think the RPG combat elements still shine through and what made the original game special, especially just the experience of it, like the music, the visuals, the fact that like the world actually looks now like the pre-rendered backgrounds we used to have, and all the art is amazing, and I think that's going to be really worth experiencing. I'm still, like I said, skeptical of the release model and what they're doing, but the small chunk I got to play really convinced me that it's going to be fun at the very least. Next up at number 2 is Doom Eternal. Now, I'm super biased. I love Doom. Doom 2016 was like my favorite thing ever. And Doom Eternal does a really good job of adding a bunch of elements on to the point where I was worried it would disrupt the flow of gameplay when you get a good run going. But thankfully it all works really well. The ability to not only just chainsaw somebody to get something, but to also set them on fire with your flamethrower first, then chainsaw them. So essentially you pop ammo and then you also pop armor because they were on fire, just adds a new layer of strategy to a game that's so freaking intense and stupid. You actually have to think, and I love that. The new movement and traversal stuff is wild. I was a little worried that it was just more to do, more to keep you busy, but some of the traversal environment stuff, the platforming, if you will, it's pretty dope. He literally when you grab a wall, he just shoves his hands into the wall and climbs up like the Hulk. The Doom guy is such a badass. Also, that movement goes forward when you're in combat and stuff, and you can double jump, you can dash forward, you can grab poles and swing on them, you can grab a wall, climb up the wall, jump off the wall. It's a lot, but it makes it fun because it makes it feel like you're playing like the floor is lava and you're hopping around a level and you're shooting enemies, but you're not trying to touch the ground. It can be really, really satisfying, and I just found like it added a new level of fun factor to it. I'm still a little weirded out about how the camera will pan back and show the Doom guy in cutscenes, and like they used to kind of hide it, but like now you can clearly see his face in the visor. That's really weird, but I'm so down with what they're doing. We've all gotten to play it here and we're all like pretty damn into it, so that's why we put it on the list. Doom is just great. And finally, down to number 1, our favorite game we played at E3. Can you guess what it is? Really, you can't? It's Star Wars.
Oh, shit.
Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, it's very good. I've been skeptical of this one as well. I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, so there is some bias there. But I got to spend a lot of time just experiencing the combat, and I actually think that they're underselling this one, like I've said about Modern Warfare and stuff like that. There's a lot of Metroidvania elements here and a lot of exploration, to the point where every planet has a landing pad where you can just post up and hang out. There's a vendor, you can go inside your ship, look at a star map, access that star map, fly to a different planet whenever you want. It's a lot more than I expected. The map has a fog of war that you have to grow, and it has different colored doors and different colored sections, like a Metroidvania where you gotta get stuff and then go back later to get through it. There's a little bit more thought, environmental thought involved than I thought. Now, there is the combat, which is pretty dope. It's very Sekiro, it's very Dark Souls. People are probably gonna get mad that like those comparisons are being thrown around. It's definitely way easier. They have confirmed that the demo, the gameplay demo, they did tone down the difficulty, but I was able to play like a challenge rank too, and got to some pretty hard encounters. I got to fight an AT-ST, and I think the combat's pretty satisfying. A lot of guys, human characters, will go down in 1 or 2 hits. A simple stormtrooper you can disarm and take him out in 1 hit, as it should feel for Star Wars. It's not overly gory. Because of Lucasfilm, apparently they couldn't go overboard on the gore, but it does fit in. It feels right. Now, the game has all the exploration elements, but they are punctuated with set-piece moments. So in the trailer, the part when you see Cal and he's swimming in the water and he climbs up the AT-AT, that's how I say it. Some people are not gonna like that, but how do you say it? AT-AT or? Yeah. Thank you. I'll see you. Okay, you're one of us.
What am I gonna say?
They do say AT-AT in the game, the lore, which is cool because it can go either way. So I like that the game is playing with that. Like he says AT-AT. But that whole climbing sequence was essentially just like, they call them Star Wars moments. The game is punctuated with just cool, fun parts that don't tie into the progression or exploration, rather. It's just like a fun part in the game, a lot of story stuff. And generally, I think it's very satisfying. Timing your parry to deflect bullets, I think, is one of the most satisfying things in the game, as well as the force pull to stab a guy, kind of like Finn in The Force Awakens. I mean, he didn't force pull, but he like stabbed that dude like that. That was so cool. Plus, too, like going off the record and just like speaking with the lead combat designer about like, their thought process behind developing the lightsaber combat and who Cal is as a Jedi, I thought was really cool. I think they actually give a shit, and that's huge. I do really like that the abilities are mapped to the triggers, so like force push, force pull, slow down, stuff like that. Whereas swinging your lightsaber is just like a regular mapped button. I think it works really well. I'm curious to see how it holds up in harder difficulties, because that's how I want it to be. But I came away really, really impressed with Star Wars, especially all the exploration stuff I didn't expect, and I am pumped to get my hands on the full game. But those are the things, those are the biggest things we got to play at E3, the things we came away the most impressed with. But I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. If you've been following E3, the coverage and stuff, it's been a little bit of a quiet year, but I want to know what you're into. Also, if you're here, maybe you said hi to me, thank you if you're one of those people. But also, if you are here and you got to see something or play something, I want to know what you think. Of course, we can talk about any of this stuff. We do have a couple more E3 videos coming out, so keep your eyes peeled for those. But if you enjoyed this and maybe I taught you a couple things, maybe you learned a couple new things, clicking the like button does help us out. We would really appreciate that. But if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Pizza's on me.